How you doing, guys, gals, and all my pals? So today we've got a little bit of petty revenge, so let's hop right into it. This one is called Big Bro to the Rescue by Harry Preparation 679. A little background. I work in an industry that uses almost exclusively unionized labor, with the workplace ran by an office of non-unionized managers of a sort. I work in a fairly specialized capacity because of my licensure, where I basically spend long stretches of time with nothing to do. However, when I am needed, it is very, very urgent. The managers often think that because of this, my position is an unnecessary expense and proceed to treat us as such. So, at this particular point in time, I, 33 male, am working with my younger cousin. Let's call her N, 27 female. We are working in the same capacity. I've always looked at her as a younger sister, and I've always looked after her growing up. But she didn't really need it here. She was an ace at her job. But even so, there was one particular person in the office, the second highest ranking manager, D, 57F, that absolute, 57 female, that absolutely hated N. N had some social anxiety, but was very good with people. And even given the emergent nature of our work, she always kept a cool head. Unless, that is, D was around. D always went out of her way to make sure she found something wrong with something N was doing, even though we are licensed, and she had no idea what she was talking about. It was infuriating, and I started bowing up to D whenever N was involved. This obviously made me a target as well, but I don't mind. I worked retail through college and have a ridiculously thick skin. Until, one day, she tried to get me to break the law on the clock. My job involves filling out and handling confidential documents containing personal information as a part of its function. The laws surrounding what I am allowed to, prohibited from turning over to my employer are complicated, and I have spent years learning them. D asked for information she was not entitled to, and I refused. She threatened my job. I stood strong. She dropped it after verbally berating me. It wasn't until she went off on N again that I had had enough. I put my plan into motion. You see, D was required to be on hand in a workspace where it was imperative that outside sound was kept to a minimum. This was right after the first Apple Watch came out, and all of the office was wearing them. It was the last week of this job before we started a new one. We're gig workers, so I put my plan into action. I went on Google and searched valuable Pokemon cards. Lo and behold, I found a great image of all the Gen 1 Halos in a sleeve. Saved. Went to Craigslist with a burner email and posted under the guise of an empty nester who had come across these after cleaning out her son's room. "You got into college, isn't that something?" I said that I had no idea what these were and just wanted to sell them for $40 or best offer. Then typed her phone number into the bottom line of the ad with words for the numbers. Then I walked to the work floor and proceeded to watch my deed unfold. Just as I had guessed, Dee had been in a big junk energy mood that morning and hadn't silenced her cell phone or Apple Watch. A double blessing from gods of mischief. It went from dead silent to a mix of a downright offensive electronic ringing mixed with the phone speakers blaring the ooh, ooh, ooh part of You Make My Dream Come True from Hall & Oates. Now, important detail. Our work floor always had visitors from other branches and the company with exotic job titles like Union Management, Coordinator, Executive VP of, Director of, you get the idea. These guys technically have no authority over me, but I'll be darned if Dee isn't very concerned with keeping these people happy. Their reaction to these interruptions is less than friendly. At this point, Dee goes into full panic mode I had never seen before. She started swatting at her phone, trying to turn it off. She finally walks away and answers. I couldn't make out the conversation, but overheard the words, "What?" Pokemon, don't call, in very irritated whispers. She hangs up the phone as aggressively as she can with an iPhone, with the intention of rejoining the group, only to be stopped in her tracks again by the shrieking wrist and the whoo, whoo, whoo. Sorry, I'm having fun doing that every time. Uh, this time, every head turns back in incredulous anger. You can see Dee is drowning. I almost felt bad for her. She walks off at a furious pace, answering the phone with the most polite hello she could manage. She walks through the door, and I overheard her say, "What gosh darn Pokemon cards?" N has been standing next to me the entire time and has noticed the deranged look of glee on my face. She knows it was me. We got back to our office and I show her the ad and we lose it. We get the hysterical laughter out of our system and walk back to the floor, only to see Dee standing there with everyone, fuming about what happened. She's pissed, but she can't direct it at anyone. Come to find out, she put anyone in the office working under her on finding out why she was getting these calls and who was responsible. This freaked N out a little bit, but I wasn't worried. I covered my tracks just fine. In fact, it had the opposite effect. Turns out someone found my ad and flagged it for removal. Touche, office. But I wasn't done. So I decided to do a second ad, because why not? This time I found a picture on Google of a full room sized replica of the city of Paris, all made out of Legos. Saved. Then I posted the ad offering free Legos with assembly assistance. Back on the floor. Woo, woo, woo. More angry faces snapping back. More of Dee fumbling her electronic devices. I was darn shocked she hadn't silenced the phone. More angry whispering with mentions, Legos. It was glorious. No, they never found out it was me. Loose lips sink ships. And this is the first time I've told this story since then. Dee and I have never crossed paths again. Found out she had to take a lower paying position on her next gig due to all of the complaints levied against her, pulled with her unprofessional behavior on the floor. She was a monster that preyed particularly on women she perceived as younger and prettier than herself, so most women. I had very little to do with her downfall, but the satisfaction of getting a little petty revenge was an astonishingly satisfying position. Moral of the story: be human to those you work with, especially those who work for you. They can mess your stuff up as fast as the person handling your food, and they will do it if you go after one of their own. Now, I absolutely love I love this petty revenge. Now, if the person hadn't been such a butthead to begin with, they wouldn't have gotten demoted. It was the combination of the unprofessional behavior and the complaints that got her to have a demotion. She didn't even get fired. She got a lower paid gig. But it's just, you have to. I read one Reddit story where a guy had taken over, an ex Navy SEAL had taken over as manager, but the former manager was still working there, but in a lower position. And they were all in the meeting with the new manager, the former manager, and the team. And the old manager was just glaring around at everybody and all of this stuff. And, he was really, a real big jerk. And the ex-Marine, ex-Navy SEAL, whatever he was, he looked the old manager in the eyes and said, I've always found out that if you take care of your people, they will take care of you. But if you don't take care of your people, they will take care of you. And this is exactly what that is. She got taken care of. Next story. This one is called Every Religion I Could Find by Revengeful Cargo. Years ago, I was working as a cook in an upscale restaurant in Calgary. At the time, my family was still living back east before they moved west. I had a week off, so I flew home to see the wife and kids. When I came back, Someone had filled my toolbox full of all my knives, etc., with gelatin. So not only were they suspended in gelatin, but the gelatin was rotting because it sat there for a week. I found out pretty quickly who it was. Typical class clown. I didn't say anything to him, but over the period of a month, I found out everything I could about the guy: full name, address, phone, postal code, social insurance number, email, everything. So after saying nothing for a month, I was ready. I went online and signed him up for every religion I could find. And not just what we think of as quote unquote legitimate Western religions. I mean all of them: Church of Satan, Hare Krishnas, Catholic, Protestant, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, everything. Oh, we didn't mention the Scientologists. We really should have done the Scientologists. They are persistent. About a week later, he starts complaining about all the religious mail he was getting, and he couldn't figure out why. His roommate was my supervisor. He figured out it was me, but he also said he wouldn't tell the guy because he was having too much fun watching his reactions. Then the visits started. JW wouldn't leave him alone. Mormons kept banging on the door. Some cults came visiting. They even had the Hare Krishnas dancing on their front lawn. He thought it might be me, but nobody ever confirmed it. He tried to get me to respond, but I was always able to keep a straight face. The restaurant got sold and closed shortly after that. I have no idea if he ever found out it was me. This is another great one. I'm sorry, it just I don't know why he needed his social insurance number for that. And by the way, just so you know, if there are U.S. listeners versus Canadian listeners, the social insurance number is the Canadian version of your social security number. So basically, I don't know why he needed that information for this, but I guess with some of the signups, they might have wanted that. But this was a little still harmless, essentially, but a little far and above for putting your stuff into gelatin. Gelatin is relatively easy to clean off. Now, I will say some tools, it may damage them. So, you know what? No, I take that back. Take that back. No, appropriate response. Because if he damaged all the tools and the cooking tools and stuff like that, because my son loves to cook, and he has some very special particular knives. Like before he puts them away, he makes sure that they're completely dried. Then he wraps them in a special cloth, and then he puts them in the drawer. So he's very careful with some of his knives, and I refuse to use them because they're sharp and I'm clumsy. But yeah, no, yeah, appropriate. Next story. This one is a nice short one called Karma Will Get You by Active Tangerine 379. Ooh, scratching just from the username. I'm allergic to tangerines. So, years ago in a small grocery store parking lot in a ski town, I was parked in a spot and someone parked in a fire lane, perpendicularly behind me, leaving about 3 feet for me to back up. There was no way I could back up and leave. That person happened to leave their car running, so I hopped in and moved it enough so that I could get out. And it's bad for the environment to leave your car running, so I turned the car off for them. I also did them the favor of locking their car so that someone else wouldn't just move it like I did. After all, someone else might take it. So I did them the kind favor of locking their car with the keys in it when I left. Yeah, appropriate. So, and I mean, that's appropriate. Petty, yes. Appropriate, absolutely. You can't just park in a fire lane. And the craft store that I used to work at and manage, we had a fire lane right in front of our building, and people would park in there all the time. all the time, to the point where they had the fire chief literally driving up and down the fire lane of this strip mall of businesses, telling people to move their cars or they will be ticketed. And that happened every single summer, spring, whatever. You would think that it would happen more in the wintertime, but no. Next story. So this one is sent a sexy message from my boss to a customer by Easy Feature 6828. I used to work in a restaurant that functioned as a bar in the evening. The brunch was always super busy, but the evenings were always dead, and that was my bartending shift. For context, my nickname was 2650 on account of the fact that one evening I sold $26.50 worth of booze over 6 hours. People rarely came in. Because of this, I was often tasked with doing prep for the brunch rush the next morning, cracking eggs, peeling potatoes, and of course, roll ups. For the uninitiated, when you go to a restaurant and they give you your cutlery rolled up in a napkin, that's a roll up. And someone does hundreds of those by hand. My boss was generally a jerk who seemingly enjoyed tasking me with crappy jobs, toilets, and such, and had been a particular jerk that evening before he left. The restaurant was small, and I knew he'd be slinging brunch the next morning. So in one of the roll ups, I wrote something along the lines of, I think you're hot. Would you go out with me? Check one, yes or no, and then included his phone number. Then I put it in the pile to go out the next morning during the rush and went home. The next morning, I got a text reading, you're such a gosh darn MFer. That was awesome, but you're still an MFer. Apparently, a couple had walked in and he'd given the roll up in question to the guy, who were super weirded out and confused, asking if it was for him or his girlfriend. My boss had no concept of what was happening, so he was equally weirded out by this guy handing him this napkin with his own phone number on it. It was apparently amazing. And I did read through one of the comments, and the guy did say that like he knew his boss had like kind of a sense of humor, even though he can be a jerk sometimes. He does still have a sense of humor, and that's why he felt comfortable with doing this to him. But like, how weird would that be, like, as a customer to like have? Because usually they like if they're gonna hand it to you like that, they like just like throw it on the table, and it probably landed in front of the guy. But like to not know that it's there and hand it to a customer, and then customers like, oh, is this for me or my girlfriend? And then you're like, is what for you or your girlfriend? And see your phone number written down there, and you're like, neither. Bye. I would disappear. I would I would disappear off the face of the planet instantaneously. Next story. This last one is called Gifting Daughter Presents Meant for Husband's Side Piece by Extension Piece 6114. So, posted in another thread, suggested to post here. Backstory. Back in 2018, we went on a Christmas trip to see now ex-husband Joe and sister Jill. He was acting strange and would not talk to me. His sister, whom I only met one time before, ignored me. I was wrapping presents we had sent to Jill's, and Joe and Jill were outside for a period. When we went to pack up, Joe was very concerned about his backpack. Only he could touch it. I thought this is odd, but whatever. A month prior to leaving, I found a prepaid card in his wallet. I took it to see what he would say. He asked about it and said it was for work. I found it and gave it back to him. About a week later, I asked if he was having an affair. He said no, and I dropped it. We have not been in love for quite a while, and I knew we were heading towards divorce. Upon returning from the trip, something told me to look in his backpack. So while he was showering, I looked and found 2 bracelets and a gift bag. I took the 2 bracelets and hid them. All was well until he went to the car to leave. He came storming in, demanding I give the bracelets back. I simply replied, "What bracelets?" He said he bought them for me for our anniversary next month. He knows I don't wear bracelets and actually hate them. Why would he be freaking out if the bracelets were for me a month later? He stormed out and we didn't talk about it again. I was finally able to get in his phone and discovered text messages confirming the affair. The revenge. 2 years later, we are divorcing. I am cleaning our rooms, helping him pack. While cleaning, I found the two bracelets I had hid years ago and forgot about. I didn't want them, but our middle child, female 15, loves jewelry. We were separated but decided to have Christmas at the house together. So Christmas morning comes and the kids are opening gifts. The look on Joe's face as our daughter opens the bracelets was priceless. They were rose gold, her favorite. Her face was beaming with joy. He sat there looking at the jewelry like a deer in headlights. Edit. Some have strong feelings about gifting the bracelets to my daughter and her feelings if she finds out. I have no intention of telling her. Joe will not say anything. He denies the affair completely when talking to other people. He also has since abandoned the kids. He moved out of state without telling them and only contacts them on holidays and birthdays. The only way she would find out is if I would tell her. We stayed married for those 2 years for financial purposes. And I wanted to include this one because while petty, yes, that is extremely petty. You're kind of getting your daughter caught in the crossfire here. I'm sorry, but no, I don't like. I would never gift something that was intended for, a cheating husband's side piece to my child. I would sell it. Oh, absolutely, I would sell it, and I would use that money to I don't know, buy something for the house, buy some trash bags, and every time I use those trash bags, giggle to myself a little bit. Like that's the kind of petty that I am. But to gift it to my child, absolutely not. And then, okay, think about it this way. Okay, what if one day he decides to be incredibly petty and eventually admits to the cheating or whatever, and then decides to drop that bomb on your daughter and, like, just to get back at you? So now your daughter's mad at you, and now your daughter's feelings are also hurt because who wants to be gifted a bracelet that was meant for their dad's side piece? Like, I'm sorry, but ew. So while petty, not the right kind of petty. I don't like it. Boo. All right, that is it. I am done with these stories for today. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate anyone who has been listening for this long. We are currently at 90 subscribers. Not gonna lie, I didn't think I would get past 15. So anyone who is enjoying listening to me talk, listen to me go over different stories and videos and stuff like that, I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I did put a post on the community tab about what other types of things that you guys would like to listen to. Like, I know the other week I did a Feel Good Friday video. I'm thinking about making that a consistent thing. I was thinking about looking into the subreddit Black Magic Every, just because it's so funny. I just want to keep things a little more on the lighthearted side. I don't want it to be, just too serious all the time. So I would like for things to be a little more on the lighthearted side. I started this channel because I wanted to laugh and vent a little bit about, some customers, and then it started morphing into some other things. And, I like it, but I like laughing. I don't want to be too serious all the time. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe, and bye!